Hello and welcome to the Kellogg's GAA Cul Camps COVID-19 solutions-based presentation. I'd like to welcome everybody that's tuned in. Hopefully you will find this useful for the 5 weeks of the Cul Camps this summer. Obviously the 2020 summer has brought some unforeseen circumstances with regard to COVID-19, and hopefully this presentation will help you in the 5 weeks of coordinating Cul Camps and coaching. Just to run through the agenda for the presentation, myself, Charles Harrison, the National Cul Camp Coordinator, I'm just going to introduce everybody here and just go through some points that I think is needed to be done. Jack McCartney from the Games Administration Department in Croke Park is going to go through some COVID-19 information that's essential. You've probably gone through some of this before, but it's no harm to do a summary and get the most up-to-date information, as this is a fluid situation. I'm going to show a video, a 7-minute long video on how to complete the questionnaire for supervisors and how to complete it yourself. We're going to go through some practical solutions on scenarios with Damien Sheridan, who's the games manager for Longford, Liam O'Reilly, who's the games manager for Offaly, Paddy O'Brien, who's a GDA for Cork, Dennis Carr, who's a GDA for Galway, and Owen Brannock, who is the games manager for Waterford. So the scenarios that we're going to focus on there is arriving at camp, first aid and hand sanitizing, hand washing, breaks and lunch and equipment, home time, toilet breaks and water bottles, and then towards the end we'll do a little summary. So I'm just going to flick on here and I'm just going to introduce you to Jack, and he's going to go through the COVID-19 information.
Hi there, my name is Jack McCartney and I'll be taking you through some COVID-19 general updates in relation to Gaelic Games. So the latest guidelines on the safe return to Gaelic Games, there are a couple of different versions, but the latest one was published on the 30th of June. This was the one that people should refer to when looking into the guidelines, and it is available at learning.gaa.ie/COVID-19. And also on the webpage where it is available, people should definitely make themselves familiar with a couple of different sections that are available there also. This includes education resources, online learning, FAQs, and also role and responsibilities. So now I'll be taking through the latest Gaelic Games news on COVID-19, and on the 14th of July there was 2 major updates which were released by the GAA. The first one was an update regarding GAA facilities, and the main topic coming from that was that dressing rooms and gyms are to remain closed until further notice. This is due to participants being 19 times more likely to contract the virus indoors rather than outdoors. Also on the 14th of July, guidance for clubs and camps dealing with positive or suspected cases of COVID-19 was released. So the key points to take from this is that if someone in a club or a camp gets the symptoms of COVID, they should contact their GP firstly. If their GP thinks they need to, then they will arrange the testing. Public health will then take over from here. If it is a negative test, then the player can return to activity. However, if it is a positive test and the player has COVID, public health will do an assessment on the player's movements in the previous days and will make a decision as to who should be considered a close contact or a casual contact in the GAA context. So this is just a little flow chart of the guidance for clubs and camps dealing with positive or suspected COVID-19 cases, which I just discussed, and it can be evident there in the flow chart. So a number of resources are available online, as I mentioned at the beginning. The main one will be the landing page. The learning.gaa.ie/COVID-19 is the landing page, and as I mentioned before as well, there are little subsections on that page as well, such as the education resources, online learning, FAQs, roles and responsibilities. And as this is quite a fluid situation and can change quite quickly over time, I highly recommend that people do take the time to make themselves familiar with all these pages involved.
Okay, thank you, Jack. That's some very useful information. I think it's important that everyone familiarizes themselves with what Jack outlined. As a supervisor or as a coach on the 2020 Kellogg's GAA Cul Camps, you would have gone through the COVID-19 education resource, all the Cul Camp resources, so you should be well familiar, but it's nice to keep up to date. As Jack said, it's a fluid situation and it's best to keep on top of those in the resources that Jack has outlined. Just to progress, I'm going to show you the health questionnaire instructions for coordinators. If you just bear with me and watch this video.
Hello and welcome to this short demo of how to use the GAA Return to Play app in your role as a Cul Camp supervisor. Arising from the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent protocols mandated by the GAA COVID Advisory Group on Return to Play, it is necessary for parents and guardians to submit some information relating to their child in advance of attending a Cul Camp. It is also necessary that parents and guardians confirm that this information has not changed on each subsequent occasion that their child attends. This should be done in the morning each day of the camp. It is your role to verify that these health questionnaires have been submitted in advance of the first day of camp and that they have been reconfirmed on each subsequent day. The functionality to do so is available on the Return to Play app. In order to use the app, there are a few simple steps to follow. Firstly, you will need to register on returntoplay.ie. Many of you will already have registered for the GAA Return to Play, and for those of you that have, you do not need to re-register as long as the email address that you registered with is the one that you have provided for use with Cul Camps. For those of you who have not yet registered, you can do so on the website returntoplay.gaa.ie. I'm now going to run through a demo of the registration process and setting up my profile as a Cul Camps supervisor. So I'm going to fill in some details. I'm going to choose a username. I'm going to add a password. And once more. I'm then going to confirm that I'm at least 18 years old and that I have read the data protection notice. At this point, I will get an email with a link that I need to click to activate my account. I'm going to go do that right now. So upon clicking the link, I will then be taken to my profile section, which I then need to complete with just some additional information, like my name, my date of birth, my phone number, the address here as well. I'll just select, let's see, let's do Galway for this example. Select Galway for the county. For the country, it's Ireland. For the postcode, let's say that. I then need to add my club, and I need to ensure that I select my Cul Camp. So if I click Add Club, I can see in the association dropdown that I have Cul Camps and the county board, as we've selected Galway. And then I can see my Cul Camps in the dropdown here. So I'm going to select Cultura on July 27th. And now I can see that that club has been added. I get a couple of checkboxes then, just to say I've completed the online COVID-19 Return to Play awareness course. And as I am a COVID supervisor in this instance, I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to click Continue. So I'm now in the health questionnaire section of the app. Once you have registered successfully, you will be granted the permissions to view health questionnaires submitted by your camp. This will take up to 24 hours after you have registered. They will not be immediately visible here, but what I'm going to do is add a few so you can see what it looks like when more information has been added. So this is my health questionnaire home screen, and this is where I will see all of the records as they get added. I can also see some information up here relating to the health and safety and data protection notice with some important information here if I need it. I can get rid of that and hide it for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to add a new health questionnaire and get some records into this table. So I'm going to add one, and I'm going to say it's for myself. I'm going to select my Cul Camp, and I'll just say my team is under 12s and my discipline is Cul Camps. and everything's good. I'm not going to say I have any symptoms of COVID-19, and I'm going to read and say I understand and confirm the information I've just filled out above and hit submit. So now we can see that that record has been added. It is being submitted by myself, for the team, and the declaration is all good. It's green. What I'll do is I'll just add another one and show you that I can add it for someone else. And again, I'm going to select their club, their team, and their discipline. And again, everything is fine here. I'll submit that. So over time, you'll start to see more and more of these records come in. I'm now going to show you that if you have already registered for the app and you haven't added your club, you can actually do this if you go into your profile. So I'm going to click into my profile, and down here in the club section, let's pretend I don't have a club and I just need to add it again. I can just simply do it here by adding Cul Camps and selecting the county and the club again. Just add an additional one here just to show you that you can add more than one, and that saves automatically as well. So to remember some of the key points, you must register on returntoplay.gaa.ie. You should do this as soon as possible to avoid issues closer to the camp start date. You must use the email address that you use in relation to Cul Camps. This is the address that will have the supervisor permissions applied. If you use a different email address, you will not have visibility of the health questionnaires. You must tick I am the COVID supervisor button in your profile. You must add each camp that you are attending on your own profile. You will be expected to submit your own health questionnaires for each. It will take up to 24 hours before you will have any visibility of health questionnaires. And you can use filters and sorting options in this table if you have quite a lot of entries, simply by clicking the top of each column. You can order the table based on these actions. And over here on the right hand side, you can also filter the table by date and time, who submitted it, and the team, club, and declarations. And just to note as well, this system is completely set up to work on a mobile device. It's always handy if you rotate your phone to deal with this table, as it is as there's quite a lot of information on it. But all the functionality remains the same. So thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, please email gmssupport@gaa.ie.
Okay, thank you, Sean. That was some really informative actions towards the health questionnaire. As always, if you're a supervisor, that instructs you how you can see the information that you need to see before camp. Obviously, the information will need to be viewed every day before camp. If you're a camp coach, you have to complete the health questionnaire also, so the camp coordinator can see that you've completed it successfully. There is a similar video available for parents, which is available in the COVID-19 section on the website also. Just to go through some gear ordering issues, I suppose for the camp supervisors, it's just important that some of these points are noted. So the closing date for camps is Friday at 12 midday. So it's important that the gear ordering is in via the website by that time. You can change the closing date if required, if the GDM requires that. Make sure, a very important point, to check the roll call that some of the children may have received their home deliveries, and not to confuse that with getting a camp delivery. Once the order is placed via the system, it is being processed, so make sure it doubly check that everything is correct before placing the order via the system. First order in is first order out, and check the packing list, which is really important. So camp coordinators may have this role at your camp, or the camp coaches. So you will see a camp packing list like what you see on the right hand side. So you will get quantities and for each size, and just make sure that what's in the boxes add up to them. It's very important that one or more of the boxes may have mixed contents. So it may say that there's 10 backpacks or 30 kits in a box, but if it has the sticker that you can see on the left hand side on that box, it means that there's mixed contents in the bag, in the box. So that means just make sure to doubly count what's in the box, not what it says outside the box. I'm just going to hand you over to Damien Sheridan, the games manager for Longford, and he's going to discuss arriving at camp.
Thanks very much, Charlie, and welcome everybody. It's great to have people listening in and really have an interest in ensuring we have very safe cool camps this year and everybody gets through it really well. So I'm just going to deal with arriving at a camp, and these are situations that we have put in place in Longford. They're not compulsory for everywhere. It's just some ideas that we're using to maybe help you think about your own situation and some of the things then that you can implement. So the first thing I'm going to highlight is communication with parents in advance is hugely important. So we're probably already doing it with as regards to medical conditions, but for this, about processes and protocols that your games manager or whoever's your Cool Camp county coordinator has put in place and they want you to implement, it's very important you're familiar with those and that they can be communicated to parents both in advance of camp and during camp when you're met with parents face to face on a day-to-day basis. So from us in Longford, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try and insist on one entry and one exit point out of our grounds all the time. We want our parents to stay in their cars until 9:45 and then approach the entry point when we give them the signal. As parents are arriving into the car park, you'll see down a little bit further, we're going to check that the health questionnaire has been completed. If it has not been completed, we'll be able to give them a little A5 size flyer that Charlie is going to administer to all counties from the marketing department. So the parent will then be able to sit in their car, read the flyer, and they will know exactly how to complete the questionnaire. But ideally, the video that will explain, like your supervisor one you've just seen, that would be communicated with parents in advance. So in theory, everybody should have that done, and that's the aim that we're hoping for. So the car park then should be monitored by club personnel or Cool Camp staff or supervisors to ensure, as we said, the parents stay in their cars, and when they start approaching the entry point, that they maintain social distancing and they have patience with you and your staff, and that they keep their kids on their person all the time until you have validated that their health questionnaire has been done and that they have sanitized their hands. So in Longford, we're using 2 COVID supervisors to try and speed up the process. Both of those people will be created on the system like you've just seen, so they'll be able to check off all the questionnaires as parents are going in. Obviously there are no walk-ups, so that helps that matter a lot, and those COVID supervisors will then be able to tell the parent what pitch zone that their given kid is on, and then they can pass through. So we talked about the flyer to help people sign up digitally. If the worst case comes that somebody has arrived, they cannot do it digitally, there is no internet connection, then you just need to have the backup of having some physical questionnaires to be able to do that. We would then have a map of our pitch layout outside the ground, so parents will be able to see which pitch zone that they have to walk to. So numbered zones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many groups that you would have broken it down into, and then parents are expected to walk their kids to that pitch zone using the tram lines that we would have created within the pitch or outside the perimeter of the pitch. We don't want parents, or we don't want other kids walking through a zone that is not their zone. So kids will be assigned their particular area on the field. They will stay there for the day and the week, and when they need to go to toilets or fill up water bottles, they will use the tram tracks on the field to navigate their way to those areas. When a parent arrives at their zone, the 2 coaches will be there with the first activity set up. The first activity should be a social distancing type activity with cones spread out so that the kids are kept apart until the camp is ready to start. Parents will be expected to sign in their child every morning, or a guardian will sign in every morning, and this is a double check on the health questionnaire to confirm that their health status has not changed. We will also use this opportunity to communicate with parents again as regards to bag drops. So because we don't have the change room facilities, bags will be left outside all the time. Inform parents as to what the weather is expected for the day. So if there's heavy rain expected between 11:30 and 12, just advising parents that the kids are going to be outside for the duration. Even if there's a stand in place, the full camp cannot be accommodated under social distancing within the stand, so it would only be one group at a time. So these are very important messages that you're able to communicate to parents. Again, for kit size, confirming what order they have placed, that it's still the correct order, to try and prevent the need for swaps once kit has been given out. So we would then order our kit at 11 AM on Monday morning. We would also advise parents that this is the collection point for their kids in the evening. Kids are not going to all converge towards the exit point and, you know, or the car park or whatever. The parent will have to come and collect their kid from their pit zone, and they will remain there. Again, that helps preventing the crossover of kids into different groups. And finally, as I said, communication is hugely important. Work on it in advance of your camps, work on it on the Monday morning, and work on it throughout the week. Be putting out your messages. Hopefully we get really good weather. Obviously we want to protect against sunburn. So they're all messages that you will be communicating throughout the week. Some counties might be using a newspaper article or flyer. We in Longford have done a piece for local radio, so that's going to be going out during the duration of camps, and it's just continually to press the message as to what we expect of parents to do. You will be provided with your coaches, the document on what is expected of you as a coach, what's expected of you as a supervisor, but there's also a document there for parents, and that should be communicated to parents, again, well in advance using the email system that we have online. So a little information, and often starting maybe the Monday before camp, and a little email Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and ideally on the Friday it should be a short email with a checklist as to what parents need to have in place for the Monday morning. Finally, I'd just like to wish everybody the best of good luck with this. I would encourage both coaches and coordinators to really understand the role that's been assigned for them, be able to work together in your small partners within your group, and to be able to work with your coordinator. And if the better prepared we are, the less issues we will have. And again, as I said, I wish you everybody great luck. And Charlie, thanks very much.
Thanks, Damien. Really useful information there. And as Damien alluded to, you know, that's what Longford are going to do. And I think the important thing is that everyone is organised. Communication is little and often towards parents, and you understand your role as a camp supervisor, as a coach, or a coordinator. And hopefully, if you're not sure of any of those roles, you contact your games manager or county Cul Camp coordinator. Okay, thanks for that, Damien. Now I'm just going to hand you over to Liam O'Reilly. He's the games manager for County Offaly, and he's going to discuss first aid.
Thanks, Charlie, and hello to everybody. Yeah, so what we're looking at in Offaly for the first aid is, the first thing that we look at is identifying the camp first aider. So similar to what Damien was saying, in Longford we have 2 coordinators, where one of our coordinators qualified in first aid, and that's going to be our designated first aider for the Cul Camp. Second thing that you want to be doing is identifying the first aid area. We'll be identifying an isolation, or not an isolation room, but an area outside for the first aid where treatment can be made for the children. All right. After this, then we notify all first aid locations and first aider to all our staff to make sure that all coaches are aware that who is the first aider in the Cul Camp, and also where is the first aid location. So that's made aware to all staff that's working on the Cul Camp. In the event then when an injury occurs, okay, the coach will then make the first aider aware of the incident. The first aider then will put on the gloves and mask and make their way to the area. Depending on the child's injury, the child then can either be treated in the zone or moved to the first aid zone. So again, it's very important that the first aider who's treating the child has the gloves and mask on. And again, just stating that, excuse me, depending on the injury, it can be either done there or moved to the first aid zone. The first aider would then treat the child as deemed necessary. Okay, so again, depending on the injury, that can be done at the zone or brought to the first aid area. Contact the parents to make them aware of the injury or event if needed. So again, it's no different than in previous years. If it's a minor case and you don't see the need to contact the parents, that doesn't have to be done. So obviously, if it's a more serious injury or something that you do need to make contact with the parents, again, that is what you do. And that's what you would have done previously beforehand. You just make sure you keep that good standard up going forward for this year as well. Once the treatment has taken place, okay, your mask, gloves, equipment, they're all binned, and then the area that you use is sanitized after use. So if you were to bring, for example, we've gone through it this week in Offaly, if you were to bring a child to your first aid zone and there's a chair in that first aid zone and they're sitting on the chair, you're then sanitizing that chair or any other equipment that may have been around that area that you've used. And again, you've bin all the mask, gloves and equipment that you've used during the treatment. And then bringing on to the last point then, as with any injury that happens in Cul Camp, you document the accident injury. That's either sent to the games manager, which in my case I always put through from our end, or it could be a camp coordinator who have live access to the reporting form on the laptop, and that's where you're going to bring the report back, and that goes centrally then back to Charlie in HQ. So that'll be our first aid procedure. Again, that's what we're doing in Offaly, and that's recommended then, and if people can take what they want from that then. From a hand sanitizing and hand washing point of view, okay, so we're taking the view that in Offaly that it's probably going to be more practical to do the hand sanitizing because it's more ready available. So all staff and children to sanitize, wash hands before and after camp. Okay, this is something that they're probably used to already, and this is something that we really have to make sure that they're doing during camp. When entering and exit playing areas, hands should be sanitized and washed. So for example, if they're to leave the zone for a particular reason, when coming back, to sanitize and wash their hands. When going to the toilet, and I know Owen will cover this later on, but when going to the toilet, hands should be sanitized and washed before and after use. So again, you're getting into good habits here and you're making sure that this has been done. Before and after breaks, eating, drinking, hands must be sanitized and washed. Again, that's making sure that all kids have them done before they do any of this stuff that they're going to be doing generally in Cul Camps. And then during camps, you could allocate times during the camp for groups to sanitize and wash their hands. So something that we're doing in Offaly is that each coach would have a small tub of hand sanitizers. We could dedicate a time during outside of these times to sanitize and wash hands to make sure that we're still sticking to good protocols and make sure good standards are being kept. And that's it, Charlie, from my end regarding them two areas. So again, wish everyone best of luck and thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Really practical advice there around first aid and hand sanitizing and hand washing. Now I'm just going to hand you over to Paddy O'Brien, who's a GDA in Cork, and he's going to go through breaks and lunch.
Hi everyone, how you doing? As Charlie said there, my name is Paddy O'Brien and I'm from Cork. So basically what I'm going to go through here is what we're going to put it into action here in Cork as regards breaks and the lunch. This year, rather than the one long break, we're going to divide it up into 3 short 15-minute breaks. This gives us more time, obviously, to divide the groups up so that there's no one big group having their lunch at one particular time. We're obviously staggering the breaks. So hopefully, if possible, with every group will be allocated in an area where they have those breaks in advance of the camp, so that all coaches are aware of where they should take the kids for their breaks. Social distancing obviously has to be adhered to during this period, so that's obviously the 2 meters. All breaks should happen in the open air or a stand area where social distancing can be adhered to. Okay. Now, obviously, not everybody is going to have the big, huge stands, lads. So let's use a bit of common sense there. So if you're with a small stand, keep them out in the open air. Don't bring them underneath the stand because obviously there won't be enough room. The breaks should take place where possible within the group's designated zone. So here in Cork, what we're hoping for is that we'll designate a zone to each group at the start of the day. That's where they will stay for the day. So they will bring their bags into that zone, and when it's break time, they will just go to their bags, take out their water, take out their sandwiches, whatever they have, and have it in that zone. Rain breaks can only take place if the complex has an outdoor stand area where social distancing can be adhered to. So if it starts raining and you don't have a stand area where you can practice social distancing, then keep them out in the rain. They cannot go anywhere where social distancing is not being practiced. All their hands must be sanitized and or washed before and after eating or drinking. So what we're going to do in Cork here is we're going to give every coach will have a sanitizing gun. So before they eat, before they go on any breaks, he will sanitize their hands as they leave him, and he will also sanitize their hands as they come back. Okay? All breaks must be supervised to ensure social distancing and hand sanitizing is taking place. So that's when it comes to the coaches. Okay, so when the kids go on their lunch breaks, the coaches can't go on their lunch break at the same time. Somebody has to be there to monitor them all the time to make sure that they're adhering to the social distancing, and obviously that when they're starting and finishing, that their hands are sanitized. So when we're talking about the breaks, lads, it's using common sense, it's following the guidelines set out by the HSE, but we're trying to make it as easy as possible for us as coaches and coordinators to keep the camp running. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the equipment, okay? Obviously, helmets, hurleys, and gum shields cannot be shared, okay? Under no circumstances. I know we have a habit in the past that if somebody came without a hurley, that, oh, look, you will share hurleys or we share helmets. That cannot happen this year under no circumstances, okay? The coach is helping, if a coach is helping a child to put on a helmet or tying shoelaces or whatever, if there's close contact with a child, that coach has to put on a face mask and gloves, okay? When he's tying a helmet, preferably tie it from behind the child, okay, so that you're not breathing into their face, okay, so that you're actually behind them. Once you use the gloves must be put into a rubbish bin immediately. Gloves can only be used once, okay? Very important that we take this into account, that we can't be using the same gloves over and over again. All the equipment that is given out at the start of the day must remain within the group's designated zone for the full day of camp. We cannot go around swapping equipment. So again, in the past, we might have had footballs in 2 or 3 areas and then we'd swap them over to the other areas. That cannot happen, okay? If at the beginning of the day, we recommend that all the coaches get enough footballs and slitters and whatever they require so that they can do both activities when they want to do them, so that they don't have to look for equipment from anybody else. And I suppose at the end of the day, all equipment must be sanitized, right? So basically at the start and at the end of each day, the equipment is spotless, okay? So the tips for sanitizing, I suppose, this is one Charlie came up with in his own club, where they have a drum of half full with disinfected water. So basically, all that happens is at the end of the day, they dip the footballs or they dip your slitters or your hurleys or whatever you have, you dip them into the disinfected water, and away you go. So again, lads, common sense has to prevail here. We've got to follow the HSE guidelines with everything. Remember, no sharing under any circumstances of anything, okay? It all sounds like an awful lot of hard work. It won't be. Once day one is done, lads, you will all relax. We'll all get on with it, and it'll be like any other camp. The most important thing is we'll try and have a bit of fun in the day and enjoy it. So thanks, lads. Enjoy the summer, the next couple of weeks, and hopefully everything will go okay for us.
Okay, Paudie, thanks a million for that. Some sound advice there. And I suppose, as we've said for all the presentations, this is real practical advice, and this is what each of the counties are doing. So in this case, this is what Cork is doing. Maybe your county will not be doing some of these things, but the guiding principles from the HSE and the GAA advisory group must be followed. Thanks, Paudie. Right, we're just going to go through some home time scenario here with Dennis Carr, GDA from Galway.
Hi, Charlie, and thanks. So this is what we're proposing to do in Galway camps with regards home time. So as Paudie said there, all kids and staff sanitize their hands when leaving the pitch in the evening time. All the gear is sanitized at the end of the session by the coaches on a rota basis. So lots of clubs have different ways of sanitizing the gear in the evening. Paddy gave us a good example there of using a barrel with disinfectant in it. In the evening time, all touch point areas are to be sanitized. Also, parents and coaches should ensure that all the clothes are taken home and appropriately cleaned for the next day. So in the evening time, we see in clubs or in camps that there's always loads and loads of gear left behind by children in the evening time. So we're going to try and get the kids to bring them home with them. And if we will have the situation where there's lots of gear left behind, so we will have a lost and found section in the camp, and we will direct parents to that area if they're missing gear, and they go and find the child's items themselves. At the end of the camp, as per usual, we should always review the day and see, do we need to change anything? Is there anything we could do better, and fix it for the next day? Okay. This is just an aerial view here of just a GA pitch here in Galway. So every facility will be different. Every pitch has different facilities. So home time is a high-risk time with regards. Kids are very excited to get home, to see their parents. Lots of parents are rushing and to get back to work or get the kids back to childminders. So this is just how we propose to do it in this particular pitch in Galway. So cars aren't allowed. You can see here we've got 2 car parks. They're not allowed into the nearest car park where the pitch is. So the cars park up on the high car park. We'll break the kids into 3 groups, and the parents will be directed as to where to pick up their child. After the first day, they'll know every other evening where their child will be. Parents are asked not to congregate, so we don't want parents coming in there at 2 o'clock if the camp finishes at 2:30. One parent to pick up the child, not coming with aunties or grannies coming collecting the kids, 3 or 4 parents for the one child. And once they pick up the child, that they return back to their car. And that's just an example of one of the pitches that we'll be using in Galway for camps. And just want to wish everybody the best of luck with their camps this year. And thanks, Charlie.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Again, like all the presentations, this is an example of what's happening in Galway and some sound advice there on how home time should look for you as a camp supervisor and a coach. Thanks, Dennis. Now we're going to go to Owen Burnock, who is the games manager in County Waterford, and he's going to discuss toilet and water breaks.
Just on from what the lads have been presenting, and to give a little bit of information again, this is what we're looking at doing in Waterford. May not work exactly like this in every other county, but I suppose it's a guide or a template that might be used. So again, we've asked, and we've already contacted parents, like Damien was saying, and asked them that every child comes with their water bottle full, and we've asked all our coaches to come with their water bottle full and have them labelled. And again, this is ongoing the last number of weeks in clubs anyway, so children are used to this. We're aiming to have one central water station. It may be possible to locate it in the middle of the field if there's some of those big 50 or 100 litre drums that you can get. If not, the water point should be away from the entry-exit point and away from the medical isolation room, so that there isn't any congregation around either of those 2 particular points. Again, staggered lunch water breaks will be in line with the lunch breaks, so the lads touched on it earlier about the staggering of the groups and the breaks. So again, the water break will be tied in with that. And again, no more than at all stages, like Liam was saying, the coaches and the children, they sanitize their hands before and after filling the water bottle. So as they go off the field and as they come back onto the field. So again, if you have a water zone, you might have some of the hand sanitizer there on a desk or a table beside the zone. So every child and every coach, when they go in and out of the zone, they sanitize before and after. The head coach, coordinator, and the group coach will organise for the children to fill up their water bottles. The taps and the tanks are sanitized prior to each child filling up their water, or each child's bottle being filled up. We're recommending in Waterford, and we spoke to our coaches on this, that only the head coach or the coach uses the tap. And the logic behind this is that it's better that the one person touches the taps 10 times than 10 people touching the tap 1 time. So again, it's just reducing the risk and being as cautious as we possibly can. And again, they're sanitized each time and they're cleaned out. And again, to reduce risk as much as we can, in an ideal situation, only the child who owns the bottle will touch their own bottle where possible. Now, this may not be possible maybe with the smaller age groups who may not be able to screw the bottle tops open and closed. But if that's the case that the coach has to assist, we would recommend that the bottle top is just put under the sink for a couple of seconds just to rinse it off. So that's in relation to toilet breaks. We can move on then to water breaks. We can move on to the toilet breaks. So again, we've split it, I suppose, into two separate sections. A lot of the stuff is the same. However, again, there will be separate toilets for coaches and children, and no more than what the lads have mentioned, we've been working with the local clubs to make sure we have identified particular toilets which are used for the boys, the girls, the coaches, etc. during the week, and that'll all be done by the club people beforehand. Again, as Liam was saying earlier, sanitise before and leaving and when return to the pitch. The coaches are responsible for sanitising the toilets before and after they use them, and the sanitation equipment can be left outside the coach's toilet if it's safe to do so. If not, the camp coordinator will have the equipment stored safely, and again before and after, so antibacterial wipes or cloth with Milton or something like that sprayed onto it to clean down all the touch points, so the taps, the door handles, the handle for flushing the toilet, etc. And again, as well as being cleaned every time the toilet is used, we're recommending that the toilets are cleaned down every hour as well. So just again to make sure that the place is clean and tidy at all times. And like I said there, ensure a safe storage of the sanitation equipment. Again, for the children, there will be separate toilets for the children. The coach or the head coach or coordinator arranges the toilet break times around lunch times where possible. However, we need to make sure that there may be unscheduled toilet breaks and that we can cover for that, particularly again with the smaller age groups, that if there's a number of the children need to go, that we don't have to wait until it's break time. We can have a non-scheduled toilet break. And again, there will be a head coach or an assistant head coach that we're going to have in Waterford, or a COVID supervisor, and some of the other lads we're mentioning as well, who will be available to assist in these breaks and that as well. Again, this coach will require face coverings and gloves if physical distancing, social distancing cannot be adhered to. So again, no more than any other county, we're provided our coaches with sanitation equipment, hand gel, gloves and face masks, so that they have them if they're required. Sanitise before leaving and on return to the pitch. The difference here is the coach provides the sanitation equipment to the child prior to them entering the toilet, and again when they come out. So the cloth or the antibacterial wipe is provided to the child, and again they're asked to clean down the touch points before and after they use the bathroom. And again, no more than everything else, everything is cleaned down every hour as well as each time the toilet is used. So I suppose they're just a few things that we're looking at doing here in Waterford, and no more than everything else, I hope everybody has a good 6 weeks at the camps. We've certainly taken some of the stuff that other counties have provided here today, and we'll be implementing that in Waterford, and hopefully people will get guidelines and templates that they can use in their own counties and will be beneficial to them. So I'll hand it back to yourself there, Charlie.
Okay, thanks a million, Owen. Again, practical advice on breaks and toilet breaks. Once again, I suppose all the usual rules apply, which goes without saying, as in adult to child ratios and so on and so forth. But a really good insight in what Waterford are planning to do around breaks and toilet breaks. I'm just going to wrap it up here a little bit. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for logging in and listening. I think it's really important that people actually understand their roles. As was said and alluded to in all the presentations, HSE guidelines and the GAA advisory group guidelines must be followed at all times. There are documents available for you. So we have prepared a document that your county games manager should have supplied, which is information for a coach, a coordinator and for parents. So there's additional information there. Obviously, with this presentation and the COVID-19 GAA education resource, you should be well prepared for the 5 weeks of the summer. I suppose where we are in the summer of 2020, this is seen as the new normal. Some of the guidelines are new, but as always at the Kellogg's GAA Cul Camps, health and safety is at the forefront for all the children and staff that are participating at the Cul Camps. And I suppose it's imperative that you make yourself aware of all the guidelines. But as was said previously, we are delighted to be able to give the opportunity for children to play Gaelic games this summer. And there are currently over 65,000 children booked on the Cul Camps. And you can't underestimate the impact that's going to have on this particular age cohort for the summer. I'd just like to thank Jack, Damien, Liam, Paddy, Owen and Peter Horgan, who works in the Games Development Department, for moderating the call. And once again, all the Games Development staff for all the effort that's gone into making the Cul Camps happen this summer, and yourselves for, I suppose, putting yourself forward to coach on what will be an exciting summer and 5 weeks. And thank you for tuning in. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get on to your county games manager. Thank you.